clearly? Everything is fine, I hope. Right, so before we begin the session, let me quickly tell you what we will take up. We will do an article taken from the Hindu, and there are two questions at the end of it. I have tried to make the questions as challenging as possible, and after that there will be an unrelated question. The unrelated question is basically a parajumble question without options, right? So that is what we will take up today, and the source, let me quickly tell you, all of you know that the source is taken mostly from the Hindu. So this is what is the source, right? And this is the first article. And by the way, we read a similar article, similar in the sense on the same topic, but here do not go by what you have read. If you remember, we read it day before yesterday. The article was about again climate change, right? This is on the same topic, but the opinions might be slightly different, right? So do not have what is called hangover of what you have already read. So go by what the passage says. So this is something which might happen in the exam. In the exam, you might come across two passages which are of similar topics, right? So, reading or your understanding of one should not influence your understanding of the other. So, that's exactly what is the point. So, let's read it. First slide. If you come across anything which you do not know, we will quickly go through it. Let's see. Right. So, go through it and tell me if there are any words you don't understand. I will tell you. Right. I'll discuss it with you, but first read it. Hope everybody is reading it. Right. So, what is this article about? I hope everybody is able to make sense. Here again, you will come across this concept net zero campaign, which we have already read about, right? So it is not a critical parameter for the safety of humanity, right? In fact, if you go by what the uh, author says, as the recent report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change made it clear, here you will find that the author is also quoting IPCC, but in a way not to support, in a way to, I mean, remember in the article which we read the before yesterday, the IPCC report, probably the same report, we do not know, but it was quoted to prove wrong the net zero campaign. But here he is taking this report, the IPCC climate change report, to it's he's clubbing it on the side of net zero only, nothing else. What is a truism? Truism is something that is very clearly known and accepted by everybody, something which is very clear, apparent. And what is the meaning of forestalling? Forestalling basically means preventing. Forestalling is nothing else but preventing. Guys, just give me a minute. I cannot see your responses. Abhilash is saying cannot understand the last line analogy. If you cannot understand the last line analogy, right, think like this. पूरा पढ़ के देखो, राइट। इससे भी पहले देखो, बट रीचिंग नेट जीरो बाय इटसेल्फ इज इररिलेवेंट टू फोरस्टॉलिंग ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, यही है व्हाट ही मींस बाय दिस एग्जांपल इज दिस: the promise of when you will turn off the tap does not guarantee you will draw only a certain specific quantity of water। इसका मतलब है कि अभी मैं पानी निकाल रहा हूँ, राइट, आई प्रॉमिस दैट मैं कल तक ये टैप बंद कर दूंगा, लेकिन उससे पहले, बंद करने से पहले मैं कितना पानी निकालूंगा मैं बताऊंगा ही नहीं। दैट मीन्स इवन इफ आई प्रॉमिस टू स्विच इट ऑफ टुमारो, बाय द टाइम आई स्विच इट ऑफ I could have taken away all the water. So that is the meaning of this. Right. Vaishnavi, what is the meaning of the word capped? Capped means to place an upper limit. Okay. So capping is nothing else but placing an upper limit. So it requires global emissions of carbon dioxide to be capped. Capped basically means to be, to put at an upper limit. Okay. Everybody has read it, I hope. Okay. Chalo. All clear. This is the first slide. Second slide. And here I will ask you one more thing, right? Question मैंने इस पे frame नहीं किया, but I will ask you, what is the meaning of dead and arrival, right? So this is a question which I'm asking everybody. What is the meaning of dead on arrival? What is the meaning of this expression? The target is dead on arrival. Explain this after you have read the passage. I'm waiting for your responses. I'm waiting for all of you to explain the meaning of the line which I've underlined. What do you mean by the target is dead on arrival? Hope everybody is reading it. Right. So it begins this passage. If you notice this paragraph, it begins with the question. Right. What do we know about projected cumulative emissions? Vicky is saying Chiria, something similar to that. But if you want to, it's almost like I have made a promise, but promise को keep करने से पहले I could have done all the damage and left. So that is the meaning of that. ठीक है, right? And I hope everybody is reading this paragraph also. If you notice, this paragraph tells you the projected, what do we know about the projected cumulative emissions? Top three emitters are the China, the US, and the European Union, right? Their net commit, even he is telling you that it will emit more than 500 billion tons of carbon dioxide before net zero. So net zero they will achieve by a certain year 2030, but even by that time they would have already emitted so much of carbon dioxide that net zero meet करने का कोई फायदा नहीं, right? So in short he is telling you these three they will exceed the limit of 500 billion tons, right? So meaning there is a certain limit, right? Even when they reach net zero by 2030, even when they reach the target, right, by the time they have reached the target they would have already done the damage, right? So target reach करे भी तो कोई फायदा होने वाला है नहीं, in fact it is not going to change, right? So there is no hope of keeping 1.5 alive, right? So Himanshu, there is no use of crying over spilt milk, थोड़ा difference है. There is, you know uh, crying over spilled milk का मतलब है, it has a very hopeful kind of a meaning. Something that has already happened, right? उसके बारे में ज्यादा worry मत करो, आगे बढ़ो. That is the meaning, right? Here it is not about crying over spilled milk, Himanshu. It is about the fact that you have kept the target, but the target, even if you meet it, इससे कोई फायदा नहीं. It's almost like, if I give you an example, somebody is smoking cigarettes, so doctor has told him that if you do not stop, right, you will have lung cancer. So he has kept the target, चलो कोई बात नहीं, मैं 10 दिन तक छोड़ दूंगा. लेकिन उस 10 दिन में वो इतना सिगरेट पिएगा कि छोड़े या ना छोड़े, लंग कैंसर तो होने वाला है ही. So that is what is the example. ठीक है? Are you getting the point? Everybody understood this, I hope, right? So it is not crying over spilled milk, it is something else, right? So what is dead on arrival? Okay, dead on arrival, Alfie, everybody, can you tell me what is the meaning of this term dead? The target is dead on arrival. So, can anybody, can everybody quickly tell me what is the meaning of this term? Dead on arrival. Dead on arrival target basically means target, even if you achieve it, even if you achieve the target, it is not going to solve the problem. Right. So everybody, yes, useless target is like, it's almost like taking a dead person to the hospital. Getting the point? Dead on arrival basically इसको ऐसे सोच के देखो, a dead person is taken to the hospital. The hospital ले जाने का क्या फायदा? Right, the person is already dead. ठीक है, no significance, useless. You can use many words. It will actually depend on the meaning of the, will depend on the context also. Right. So, in fact, if you notice, the target, even if you keep the limit at 400 billion tons of carbon dioxide, this is even more certain to be breached. He is telling you that the target is in any case impossible. Even if you meet the target, कोई फायदा नहीं होगा. Right. Let's see. Look at the words which are used in quotes in this paragraph. In this paragraph, there are many words which are used in quotes. This basically means that he is quoting from the Paris Agreement, or he is quoting from reports by climate science. And if you look at it, he says that this Paris Agreement or climate science, whatever it is, the requirement is that net zero should be achieved by not countries individually, but by the second half of the world global. It should be a global achievement. That means it does not fix specific targets to specific countries. So there is no transparency, right? And if you notice, the world must reach goals by 2030 or 2050 are product of specific economic models for climate action, right? So, and if you notice, they are designed to achieve the goals by using the lowest cost methods, foregoing equity and climate justice. What do you mean by equity? Equity means being fair, right? सबको एक साथ treat करना, justice पे नहीं है. So the aim here, the achievement of the goals will be through what will be the most cost effective. It is not going to be decided according to justice or according to being equal, right? So they front load emission. फ्रंट लोडिंग का मतलब, थिंक ऑफ इट लाइक, एक व्हीकल के सामने बहुत कुछ ज्यादा लोड कर दिया तो ऐसे पलट जाएगा. सो दैट इज फ्रंट लोडिंग, मतलब डिसप्रोपोर्शनेट लोडिंग. सो डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज पे भार ज्यादा है, राइट, डिस्पाइट द लो emissions, right, and this is designed to allow the developed world to backload its own buying more time. If you notice, in short, what is telling is that the Paris Agreement, it is lopsided. ये बैलेंस नहीं है, ये ज्यादा, it puts more onus on the developing countries despite emitting less. ठीक है, everybody's got the point, I hope, right? So this argument that you see in this, the author's argument is important here. What is telling you here is that, Paris Agreement or climate science as of now, it is not fair, right? So it treats different countries differently. ठीक है, everybody has read it, I hope. So here, if you notice, the author is also even saying the interplanetary IPCC is also even, you know, he is not he is not even sparing it. He is also questioning it, saying that climate change or whatever science that is related to climate change is always biased. So Vicky, correct, हाँ correct है. This is what the author is telling you is correct, right? And ये climate change का जो meet है, today is October 26th, I think, हाँ आज होने वाला है. Today it is planned today, right? So what comes out of it, we do not know, right? And eventually towards the end, the author will also tell you, right, who is going to be, what is going to be happening. Now let's see next slide, everybody. Okay, Siddharth. Okay, today is 27. Okay, that means वो कल हो गया होगा उसके बारे में I didn't also read, right. The climate COP26 कल हो गया होगा. It would have happened, right. It would have started. Okay, it must be going on anyway, right. Okay, everybody is reading it. Right. This paragraph is also quite easy. In fact, if you notice, he is telling you about the lopsided nature of of these goals. Right. So it's a result of over appropriation. What is appropriation? Appropriation means jabardasti, taking something which does not belong to you, right? Or it's almost like dominate karna, jabardasti dominate karna, taking something which does not belong to. That is basically what it is. Over appropriation by the global north. Global north is the northern hemisphere, and hamesha northern northern, not just the hemisphere, the countries towards the north, generally you will see they are more developed, right. And if you look at the uh, if you look at it, right, less than a fifth of the world has been responsible for the three-fifths of all past cumulative emissions. If you notice, so less than a fifth of the world has been responsible for 5 out of 3 of all emissions, right? And if you notice, the US and the EU have contributed a whopping 45%. United States and the European Union, right? So even if they promise to cut down to net zero, right, it will be highly disproportionate. More importantly, it will not solve the problem, right? It is unfair, as also it is not going to solve the problem. Okay, all clear, I think. Right. Now, this is where the author tells you about India's, you know, what they call India's story or India's version. Let's see. Right. So VM is criticizing developed countries, correct? Right. Also, he's telling you that whatever data science, whatever climate science, whatever Paris Agreement that we all speak about, right? It is something. It is something which is designed to suit the Western countries or the developed countries only. ठीक है, so they have done a lot of damage, but still, you know they have done a lot. The damage is done more by them, but still they would like to, responsibility इनको कम करना पड़ रहा है. Okay, by the way, top three emitters क्या है पता है? China number one, number two is the US and the European Union, as in if you take the whole of Europe. Right. So he's telling you the position or what is India's stand. If you notice, it is not more than 4.3% cumulative emissions of carbon dioxide since the pre-industrial era. So India's contribution is very less, right? Even though it is home to more than one-sixth of humanity. India's per capita emissions, matlab, per head emissions are less than half the world average, right? It is less than one-eighth of the US and has not shown dramatic increase like China, right? This is the position of India, right? So the author is telling for India to declare, so India should not declare net zero now. So, Vicky, yes, this is what he's saying, right? So India has not done a lot. So if India agrees to declare net zero now, it is like you are silently agreeing to whatever they say. right? So idea is, the what is the author saying? So what the author is saying is India has done less compared to, you know, the rest of the countries, right? So that is what we have to be, we have to be taking into account. So we should not agree to net zero. Everybody is clear, I hope. Okay, right. Let's move on. One second. This slide, I'm just skipping it. Right. This is the actual slide. The actual slide is this. This is the last slide. Done. Everybody is through. Right. This is the last slide. Before that, after that, we will do the questions. Right. So he's talking about again what India is supposed to do. Everybody is reading it, I hope. So the net zero should be actually reached by the developed countries in China even before. Right. So everybody's read it. I think no, not much of a problem. I think, right. This is like what India is supposed to do in the words of the author. Right. Now there are some questions I would like you to answer. Right. Which of the following best sums up the point conveyed by the turning of the tap example given in the first paragraph? Remember, turning of the tap example which was given in the first paragraph. I discussed it to a great extent, right? So, author is asking you what is the point that the author, wants to make. The question asks you what is the point that the author wants to make. There are four, questions, and if you notice, Vicky, revisit. बहुत easy है revisit. याद नहीं है. If I okay चलो, if you want I'll show you, right? But ये तो हमने beginning में already I discussed it to a great extent. Mark अभी तक है. वैसे अभी तक underlined है. ठीक है? If you read from here to here, you will understand it very clearly. और वैसे भी you have already read it again. ठीक है? So this is the slide. Everybody's read it, I hope. Okay. So some of you have already started answering. Let's see what are the answers. Options. Okay. Three of you, in fact, four of you think the answer is three. But be very careful. By the time net zero emissions is reached, the world would have already perished. मतलब तब तक वर्ल्ड खत्म हो चुका होगा. Be very careful. Everybody is answering three. Perish का मतलब है वर्ल्ड खत्म हो गया होगा. क्या वर्ल्ड खत्म हो चुका होगा? When you say you could have drawn More water, does it mean the world would have finished? No, no. So the problem with 3 is, but यहाँ तक तो ठीक है. By the time net zero is reached, it is fine. The world would have already perished. क्या world खत्म हो चुका होगा? No, he is telling you when you reach that target, you would have already emitted. Remember the smoking example which I gave you, right? Doctor has told somebody that stop smoking, right? Otherwise, you will have lung cancer. The person says 10 दिन बाद छोड़ूंगा और 10 दिन में इतना पिया कि lung cancer already हो जाएगा, right? So that way, it is not about the world would have perished, but the danger would already be there, right? So the problem would not be solved. So 3 is not the answer. Best answer is this: reaching net zero emissions will not do anything to prevent the problem. This is a better way of writing it. Okay. So notice this is how questions are made tricky in the exam. In CAT, this is how questions are left. Okay, right. Okay, one of you, Pandey, is asking last 30 days, the the best approach for RC. I'll discuss it after this, right? Question सबको समझ में आ गया. By the time the tap is turned off, a lot of water would have been drawn. The problem with one is it is not just the tap, right? Tap water to example है. He basically means climate change and related issues. ठीक है? So the best answer is 2. ठीक है? One of you is asking last 30 days, what should we do? Tell me, this is again a question which you might be having, right? So last 30 days to get what should we do? There are certain things which I can tell you, right? First of all, do not assume that cat का pattern ये होगा. The first thing which I should tell you is last 30 days to cat है, तो pattern of the exam इसके बारे में कोई भी assumption लेके मत चलो. Do you know how many questions are going to be asked? What do you know about the exam? The only thing that you know very clearly is that you have 30 minutes per section. This is the only thing that you know. Right. Pattern, nobody knows. कितने questions आएंगे, nobody knows. RC ज़्यादा आएगा, nobody knows. Grammar आएगा, नहीं आएगा, nobody knows. Vocabulary आएगा, नहीं आएगा, nobody knows. The only thing we know is that for the last 7-8 years, they have followed a certain pattern. What is the pattern that they followed? They ask you passages, parajumbles without options, summary and odd sentences. But ये भी last year तक ही था. What is the guarantee that they will continue with this? सडन चेंजेस हो सकते हैं ना, डेफिनेटली, राइट. सो जो अभी द पैटर्न दैट वी आर यूज्ड टू, दैट वाज देयर फॉर 7-8 years. उससे पहले कुछ और था. सो थिंग्स माइट चेंज ऑल ऑफ अ सडन. सो द फर्स्ट थिंग व्हिच वी हैव टू कीप इन माइंड इज keep your mind open and 40 minutes per section. This is the only truth. बाकी सब we do not know. So you will plan your strategy at that time. 40 minutes में जितना हो सकता है उतना ही करना है. But for the sake of preparing, what you can do is last 30 days you should take a mock every day. you know uh, Take a mock at least. Sorry, you should take a mock every if not you know if not every day, right? Every day तो मुश्किल है, करना भी नहीं चाहिए, right? In a week you should take at least 2 mocks, right? 2 mocks दो, right? And do a proper analysis, right? So analysis में क्या करना चाहिए? I always keep on saying this to everybody, right? When you do analysis, right, what we should do is nothing else but just give me a minute, guys. So when you do analysis, you should focus on the questions which you could not answer. You should focus on the questions which you got wrong. वहीं से तो इम्प्रूवमेंट होगा. और as far as possible अभी फिलहाल कैट का कैट एंड जैट के पैसेजेस सॉल्व करने की कोशिश करो. ठीक है. सो द फोकस नाउ शुड बी ऑन सॉल्विंग कैट जैट क्वेश्चंस एंड द मॉक्स, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाट वी शुड डू. ठीक है. Everybody is clear? If you want to ask anything specific, you can, right? And in the meantime, let me just show you the next question also. Which of the following best describes the author's opinion of the Paris Agreement? Right. And if you notice, this is like I have given you, to make it challenging, I have given, uh, अभिलाष सेइंग एनालिसिस नहीं हो पाता, राइट? बीएआरसी में एनालिसिस क्यों नहीं हो पाता? एनालिसिस में क्या करना होता है, राइट? इन द एनालिसिस व्हाट डू यू हैव टू डू? लेट मी क्विकली टेल यू. इन द एनालिसिस What do you have to do? You have to simply focus on the questions that you got wrong, right? Wrong answers you have to focus on. And second, unattempted. Wrong answers and unattempted questions. These are the two things that you need to focus on. ठीक है, right? इस पे I'll come back to it once we discuss, right? Let me tell you the answer for this. The author's opinion, it would be okay. Paris Agreement, will it be enough to prevent disaster? No. The author says ये if it is like spread throughout the passage, right? Bias भी है, ठीक है? But is it enough to prevent the disaster? No, enough भी नहीं है, ऊपर से bias भी है. So the best answer is 2. It will not be enough. It is also biased. It will be enough to prevent disaster and is also fair. Fair तो बिल्कुल नहीं है. It will not be enough है, but fair बिल्कुल नहीं है. Right. So if you notice, right, this is like a question which can be done more by elimination. You have read it throughout. Transparent भी नहीं है. ऊपर से पहले वो बता चुका है कि it is something. This entire climate science is completely biased. Okay, right. Now, before we end for today's session, let me quickly take this up. How do you do analysis of the mocks? A lot of people have problems, right? It is very simple. दो ही चीज करने हैं in the analysis. You have to focus on the answers which you got wrong and the unattempted questions. क्या करना है? Attempt them again without a time limit, right? And तब तक नहीं छोड़ना है जब तक नहीं समझ में आए. अगर बिल्कुल ही नहीं समझ में आ रहा है, this is a time you should consult an expert, right? You can ask in the form of a doubt or whatever you can. ठीक है? And one of you, Ibrahim Contractor, how to improve on parajumbles? देखो, parajumbles improve करने का, for example, today I'll show you a question, right? So what is the approach as far as parajumbles are concerned? The only one thing which is important is what is the link. ये मैं सबको बताता रहता हूँ, right? You do not need to find out what is the first sentence first. First sentence क्या है पहले ढूंढना जरूरी नहीं है. 4 sentences से try to link 2 sentences at least out of them. उसके बाद the remaining 2 उसको उसके आसपास. For example यहाँ 1 2 3 4 है, मुझे पता हो सकता है अच्छा 3 and 4 linked है. अब now बचा क्या है 1 and 2. So 1 को मैं यहाँ place करूँ, 2 को इधर place करूँ. So look for things like this. ठीक है, getting the point? विक्की जस्ट 2 क्वेश्चन. हाँ, 2 क्वेश्चन से ज्यादा मेक करना बहुत डिफिकल्ट है, स्पेशली फॉर मी, राइट? बिकॉज एक तो इट इज टुडेज पेपर, टुडेज एडिटोरियल पेपर, आई नीड टाइम, राइट? क्वेश्चन बनाने में टाइम लगता है, दैट इज द इशू. ठीक है, राइट? नाउ इफ आई टेक अप, मैं इसको पहले से प्रिपेयर करके भी नहीं रख सकता बिकॉज इट इज लाइक should be today's paper only anyway, right? I hope everybody can read this. This is these are 4 sentences. Just try this. This, right, this ERE basically take it to be a short form of before. ये पुराना writing तरीका है. Right. This is a very interesting question, right? So what you have to do is, इसमें everybody will have to tell me what is the sequence, right? ये here if you notice ये narrative है, story है. So that if you take it like a story, right? So the key here is it is a narrative. If you are able to find out the strands of the narrative, it would be much more easier. Vicky, 1 2 3 4. Okay, Manoj Pritam is asking, you didn't get enough time to manage my cat practice due to my job. How do I manage? इसका ना देखो एक चीज है, इसको let me take it this way, whether manage अगर कुछ भी हो, right, every day you need to practice at least for 1.5, around 1 to 2 hours, depending on where you stand right now. So a lot depends on, बहुत सारी चीजें, a lot depends on, uh, a lot actually depends on where do you stand right now also, right? अगर किसी का level बहुत अच्छा है as of now, right, the person can be good. Somebody's level might be a little bit on the lower side, जिसका level कम है उसको he will require more time, so it depends, right? इसको कहना बहुत मुश्किल है, right? Okay, there is a video problem, I can see, I can also understand, पता नहीं क्या issue है, right? Let's see. Is it fine now? This must be a temporary glitch because I mean I can see. Is it fine now? Screen I think is fine. Right. So what is the best answer? Some of you have given the correct answer. The answer to this question is, इसका जो आंसर होना चाहिए, it should be 2 1 3 4, right? Mistake is to write 1 2 3 4. ये बहुत, this looks very attractive, but the answer नहीं है. 1 2 नहीं होना चाहिए, because if you notice, if my enemies began to arrive, 7 or 8 of them, right? इसमें से three men ran together, 7 or 8 आने लगे, उसमें से 3 4 एक साथ थे. So the link between 1 and 3 cannot be broken. The link between 1 and 3 cannot be broken, right? So here in 2 he is telling you about the position that he takes, right? And I was scarcely in position, that means position lete hi the enemies began arriving, or they were in the 7 or 8 of them, or on 7 or 8 of them में से 3 एक साथ थे, hand in hand. And I made out, मतलब मैंने guess किया that the middleman was the blind beggar. The next moment his voice, किसका voice, right, the blind man. So 1 3 4 is a very clear link. Now you are left with 2 of course you will place it here. So the best answer is 2 1 ठीक है, right? So that is all for today, right? I will meet you again tomorrow, and as I keep on telling you, we will try to solve questions as far as possible, right? So let's see. Anyway, so that is it for today, and before we leave, take a quick look at the schedule for today, right? Not today, the entire week schedule, right? And one more thing which you already also know about, but still let me tell you, right? There are courses which are still open for 2022, for 2021, right? So people who are preparing accordingly can think of taking up a course. And this classroom program is also, this is again for those exams which are, apart from CAT, right? So ये इसलिए necessary है because there are many areas which are not, relevant to CAT, but which are very relevant for in these exams. For example, grammar, for example, vocabulary. So these are things that you can think of, right? Okay, right. So with that, we come to the end of the session. I'll meet you again tomorrow at the same time. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you, everybody.